Welcome to the Slut Next Door podcast, where we dive deep into desire, unravel kinks and fetishes, and explore the deliciously naughty side of self-discovery. I'm Beatrix Vale, an erotic audio creator, and your guide to all things kinky and curious. So let's begin. Welcome to another episode of The Slut Next Door. Today we're diving into the sensual and cerebral world of hands-free orgasms, a phenomenon where pleasure and climax is summoned not by touch, but by surrender. And yes, people can come hands-free without touching themselves. Isn't that amazing? We're going to explore what a hands-free orgasm truly is, how it's more than fantasy. It's a blend of hypnosis, breath intention, and arousal. And you'll learn the techniques that have helped others cross that edge and how preparation, mental and physical, can shift everything. And most importantly, we'll talk about the psychology of letting go, the art of handing over control, of dropping into trance, and trusting your body and mind to take you there. So whether you've experienced a hands-free orgasm before or you're still chasing that first wave, this episode is your roadmap. Now, before we begin, if you are enjoying this podcast or if you're curious where this journey might lead, I'd love for you to take a moment to subscribe, like, or leave a comment wherever you're listening. Your support helps me reach more curious minds. And if you're craving more files, more training, more of me, you can explore my entire erotic hypnosis library, custom content, and even a blog at missbeatrix.com. I will have that linked in the episode description. So are you ready to sink a little deeper? Let's begin. And let's start right at the center of this. And actually, before we begin, I do want to bring up that a lot of the info that I'm going to be presenting to you today comes from something I called the HFO symposium that I did last year. I spent some time researching. I gave kind of like a poll, if you will, or asked for comment. I gathered my own data from men that have either had successful or have been trying to have hands-free orgasms. And I kind of just took all that data together and really kind of pieced it together, analyzed it, really trying to understand it because there is no handbook out there for it. So let's first start with what is a hands-free orgasm? So sometimes it is also known as an HFO, just hands-free orgasm, shortened down. But it's when the body reaches climax without any physical stimulation. No hands, no toys, no thrusting or friction. Now, some people will define their HFO by no hands, but they'll include toys or even hip thrusting, and that's fine. I'm not here to tell you you're wrong, but I am here to define what a true HFO is, and I believe a true one is none of those things involved. It's just you, your mind, and your body, and arousal created from within. It is absolutely a very raw expression of your body's potential. And hypnosis works perfectly to produce this because within hypnosis, we have suggestions, breath work, and surrender. And with an HFO, the sensations feel real because they are real. And those can be felt through tingling, pulsing, throbbing, a very tight magnetic heat that builds in the pelvis area. And that ache then turns into pressure and then release. And what's fascinating is it all begins in the mind. And to be honest with you, that's why I started doing erotic hypnosis, is because I am so intrigued and fascinated with the mind and genital connection. I love everything that has to do. I mean, obviously, I love masturbating and I love helping men masturbate, but I am also very, very interested in what's happening in that mind. But when we listen to erotic hypnosis, especially the kind that's designed for surrender and stimulation, the brain enters a trance like state, very suggestible, very open. And in that kind of space, we can mimic physical responses. We can become aroused just from voice, breath, and words. And people that have had a successful HFO describe it as a full body experience, mental and emotional, physical and energetic. Some say from my research that it feels like it's being taken over by or they are being taken over by a wave of pleasure that they didn't create, but allowed. And I think that right there is the beauty of it. A hands free orgasm isn't just about coming without touching yourself. And that's obviously a big part of it. But I believe it's about experiencing pleasure in a completely new way, trusting your mind, your body, and your desire to meet in the middle and take you somewhere different, somewhere deeper. So now that we understand what a hands free orgasm is, let's talk about how to prepare for one, because this is something I picked up in my research that I honestly didn't put much value into before I heard from these men. Because make no mistake, this is not just something that happens magically. It's something that you create and allow, like I said earlier. But hands free orgasms thrive in a very specific kind of space, one of relaxation, privacy, and anticipation. So think of it like a ritual, a moment that you carve out intentionally, a seduction you give yourself. I always have said that having a date with yourself is so refreshing. We've all had moments where you may have masturbated very quickly and it's kind of just like a manual thing to make yourself feel better or a stress relief. But I think the most beautiful moments are when you are seducing yourself and giving you that kind of special space that you would give someone else that you are dating or a partner. But first things first, with the HFO, choose your environment, a good environment. So one that's quiet and hopefully undisturbed, where you feel safe to surrender, no distractions, hopefully. I know that sometimes that's difficult, but if you can, that's perfect. Most people find the most success lying in bed, dimming the lights or total darkness, And always with hypnosis, you should be using headphones or earbuds for total immersion. If you are listening to erotic hypnosis from a speaker, you're not doing it right. At least in my world, because there's a lot of things that I craft in the editing process that is happening with both ears in different ways. So that can't happen with a speaker, only with headphones. But also, make yourself comfortable, whether that be completely nude, wearing loose clothing, or even for some, wearing something arousing like lingerie or a tight pair of underwear, or even for some, a chastity cage. It wouldn't hurt also, depending on how you react to these, a cock cage, if that helps heighten your focus and experience. Then, my next suggestion is to prepare your body. Like, take a hot shower or a bath, shave if that's what you do, moisturize your skin, stretch, or even one man in my research put a cooling patch on his forehead. I thought that was lovely. Others may fast even or edge for days beforehand to increase sensitivity. I think that's a really smart thing to do with the edging, especially if you're not experienced with HFOs. Because if you're edged, you're extra sensitive, right? But keep in mind, all these suggestions are they're suggestions. Do what works for you. Maybe moisturizing your skin doesn't do anything for you. Maybe edging doesn't do anything for you. Know your body, know your preferences. Just do the parts that make your body feel like a willing participant. And most importantly, don't forget your mind, because a relaxed mental state is essential. So that might mean meditating beforehand, setting a timer so you don't have to worry about the clock, or, turning your phone on do not disturb. Some people have even found that journaling, if that's your thing beforehand, getting out any distractions or stresses before participating in HFO help them. I think this next piece is super important. Dropping expectations. You're not trying to make the orgasm happen. You're learning to let it happen, because the more pressure you put on yourself, I think the less successful you're going to be, because you may be just laying there stressing like, oh my God, is it going to happen? Am I doing it right? So I'll say that again. Not trying to make the orgasm happen, learning to let it happen. And I'll read you something one gentleman had said in my research. He said, over the years, I've come to understand that I shouldn't fixate on trying to make it happen. Instead, I try and become passive to the hypnosis, take an approach that's more about allowing than forcing. I think that is such a fabulous perspective. That's exactly the mindset that we're aiming for. And always remember that surrender isn't a weakness, it's an offering. And it's a choice to trust a process. And when you treat your preparation with reverence, that's when the body responds. Now, before we go even deeper, let me slip in a little something I think you'll enjoy. Recently, my website has just been completely redesigned. So if you haven't visited missbeatrix.com, and that's MISSBEATRIX.com. Now is the perfect time to explore. You'll find all my erotic hypnosis files, hands-free orgasm training audios, and a blog where I share different kink explorations. I'm going to be sharing a lot of things there. I just kind of launched it. So if you're checking it out the day I post this podcast, you'll see some, but definitely keep checking back. I'm also going to create a blog post on this topic of HFO, so look for that. There's a space for my free content, a space for the most devoted good boys to unlock premium experiences. Everything is laid out to help guide you deeper into my world. So when this episode leaves you aching for more, you'll know exactly where to go. MissBeatrix.com. So let's get back to where we left off with hands-free orgasms. So this next segment is less about how and more about why. So why is surrender so central to the hands-free orgasm? Well, it's because an HFO isn't just about pleasure, it's also about permission. So you're not just climaxing without touch, you're climaxing without control, without force, without performance. And for so many people that's the key. Like in our daily lives, we're always holding, like holding expectations, holding tension, holding back. But hypnosis gives you a door into something else. It's a place where you can let go. I recently created it felt a lot like a hands-free orgasm file, but it's for wedding yourself for me. So just simply encouraging the listener to truly let go of holding back their urine. And when I was just talking about that, not holding back and holding tension, it reminded me of that file because it's so much like an HFO. It's like letting go of that tension that we so naturally hold every single day. And another really beautiful part of it is you can trade in effort for obedience. So you're giving up effort, which is great. I mean, who doesn't like to just kick your feet up and do nothing? So that's kind of what you're literally doing in hypnosis is you're giving me or the hypnotist control to guide your mind, to guide your body, and just simply obey. And you're also trading in thought for feeling, control for release. This is just where all the magic happens. And one of the most common things I have heard in the past, because I've definitely had men come to me like saying, gosh, I really want to have an HFO. It's like my number one fantasy. And I get it. I think it's wildly hot. I think it's so arousing that men come just from my voice. It fills me up with so much arousal and empowerment. But anyway, so when something I often hear is like, I'm so focused on coming, I couldn't relax. I couldn't relax enough to let it happen. And here's the thing, our body, our bodies don't respond to pressure. It responds naturally to openness, to repetition, to softness, to suggestion. And that's why surrender works. You don't try to come, you become the person who is allowed to, who is told when, who is brought there not by your hand, but by a voice. And that kind of goes back to the mental piece of it, is not putting that pressure on, like, oh, come on, body, we want to come. I'm not going to touch you. We're going to try to come. Um, it's all about allowing it to happen. But in terms of making the HFO happen, this is why roles like mommy dom work really well for some, or even therapists, definitely hypnotists are so effective, because they speak to that deep need inside that so many of us want, even need to be guided, to be cared for, to be told what to do. And again, it's not weakness. I think it's deep erotic intelligence. And when your mind opens like that, when you stop pushing and start listening, your body starts to respond. And eventually that starts to become louder until it becomes something you can feel all the way down, and something you don't need to force, something that takes you. I mean, that's the psychology of surrender. Now, I could go through different techniques like the actual clenching, or even suggesting that you start with a hands-free toy, or I've even heard of some holding a blanket very, very tightly, like around their body, so it creates some friction. There are some like tips and tricks for training for HFO, and I'm going to save that for another episode. We'll keep this one more towards the definition, like what exactly is this phenomenon? And I figured a very logical place to further explain this is how I craft HFO files, because it is wildly different than, well, I shouldn't say wildly, but it's definitely different than a regular kind of erotic hypnosis. It is, it's crafting an experience that unfolds layer by layer, and every moment serves a purpose, and every word becomes a thread in the web that I'm weaving around your mind. So when I design a hands-free orgasm file, I'm really trying to speak to your body, your subconscious, and your need. And so first, I'm going to start very soft. Like metaphorically, take your hand and guide you to a place where, that pressure melts away. And you're definitely going to be reminded to relax, don't be nervous, don't even try. Kind of like I'd said earlier, no need to have that pressure, because you're definitely not going to pop without hands if you feel the pressure. And well, the mental pressure. You may feel some pressure in your penis, but that's what we want. Um, so yeah, so the beginning is very soft, very typical kind of hypnotic induction. After that is when I lead you deeper, and really using my voice, the rhythm of my words, carefully choosing patterns, and I try to invite you in, not forcing you under something you just can't resist, but to keep dropping into my voice. And then once the trance is deepened, I start to work on sensations very gently and gradually. And I'm going to make you become aware of things happening in your body. I may even make things happen in your body by hypnotic suggestion. Um, because there is an art to speaking hypnotically. I always love to use this example. I'll do it here. So I want you to think of something, okay? I'm going to try to make something happen physically inside of your body by just my words and guiding your mind. So I want you to think about, or visualize rather, that you walk into my kitchen and it's a very warm, well lit kitchen. I'm in there smiling, asking you if you'd like a little afternoon snack. And of course, you say yes. How would you not? Get a afternoon snack by a seductive mommy dom? Of course, you would say yes. So I walk over to my refrigerator and I open up the refrigerator. You can almost see the change in temperature when you see me open that door. You see the condensation on the little clear plastic drawers. And I reach inside, deep inside the refrigerator, and I grab something out. It's a nice, juicy lemon that I've had in there for a couple days. I bring it over, shut the refrigerator door, put it on my cutting board, and I take a knife and I slice it in half. And one more time to make a quarter of that lemon. It's so very cold, so juicy. And then I take that lemon quarter and I place it right in front of your mouth. And I tell you to open up. And you start to suck on that lemon. And immediately draw so much of your saliva, just tasting that sourness. Somehow a little sweetness too. So much saliva responds to that drastic taste. Is your mouth watering? So that's as an example. Hopefully your mouth is watering if you really tuned into that and activated your senses. There's just certain ways that you can pull out a physical response by using words. And so back to the HFO script creation. So definitely after trans, I'm really trying to suggest things that are happening in your body. They could be happening, they could not be happening. But I'm hoping that if I suggest it, it's going to happen. But this is where my control in the script becomes more apparent, more deliberate. And I am activating all kinds of senses. I try to think about visually, smells, sounds, even feeling me grip you tighter and tighter, things of that nature. And I'm really trying to work your body just by words and trying to make your pleasure just bloom and bloom and bloom until later it just explodes. I'm definitely telling you what to think, what to feel. I'm using some other, fancy hypnotic effects like the whispers or the moans in the background. Those are going to amp up towards the middle and end of the file. I'm really trying to make you feel things in a phantom way. Um, and my my pacing increases as well. Towards the end, I'm going to be talking really, really like this, and I'm pulling it out, and there's an urgency in my voice. Where in the beginning and even maybe in the middle, I'm speaking very softly and seductively. So I think the pacing is very important as well. But that's all I'm going to tell you because I don't want to give away too many of my secrets if, you're listening to my files. But I'm sure you could draw those conclusions if you partake in HFO files. It's pretty standard amongst other creators, is probably the same exact thing. Um, yeah, it's an HFO file is a playground of arousal and trust too. And what I hope it becomes as well is where your body learns to listen to your mind. And then your mind is listening to me. So I'm in control of your mind and body. Now, you've just taken in a lot. And I hope you're feeling that little quiet hum beneath the surface. Curiosity, maybe even arousal, or maybe even recognition. But today we've explored what a hands-free orgasm really is. We've talked about preparation, not just physically, but mentally. We've talked about the mindset it takes to invite that kind of pleasure, the psychology of surrender, and how I build my HFO files like a journey, layered, intentional. And remember, this HFO art, if you will, it's a practice. It becomes a relationship between your mind and your body. And that's something that most people will never truly hone. So it can be done though. And I think the most intriguing part too is it's a relationship between your desire and my voice. So if today stirred something in you, that's no accident. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take this feeling with you, let it simmer, enjoy it, be curious. And if you're ready to explore more deeply with me, you can find my HFO training audios, my HFO files, erotic hypnosis sessions, and even custom experiences at missbeatrix.com. You can also subscribe on Loyal Fans or Subscribe Star to unlock the full archive of my mind-melting, body-tingling files. And if you love this episode, let me know. Rate it, share it, or comment on it and tell me which part made you scream a little. Because your pleasure, your journey, your surrender, that's what I'm here for. So until next time, breathe deep, be open, and keep practicing. And that's a wrap for this episode of The Slut Next Door, where we dive deep into the raw, unapologetic truths of human desire. If you loved what you heard today, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a juicy moment. Want to connect with me outside the podcast? Click the link in my bio where you can find lots of juicy content and options. Until next time, I'm Beatrix Vale, your Slut Next Door, and I'll see you in the next episode.